Today we're going to do the heat treat. I have the blade right here, and while I was at it, I had a blank cut, so I ground out a second knife, also an 01 tool steel. I don't like to run the kiln for just one blade. It's nice when I run it that I can do several things, so this will give me two knives to do. So we'll be heat treating both of these today. Right there you can see my knife oven, and down there you can see the oil, which I have heating up right now. We're going to load the knives in the kiln. I have this ceramic block with ceramic pegs in it. And you can place your knives in there and it'll hold them upright. So here they're placed in the oven. Now we're going to close it. I have the controls set and we're going to start this program. And it'll start heating up the temperature. You can hear the clicking. That's it turning the elements on and off. Since this is 01 tool steel, I have it programmed to go up to 1200 degrees and then hold that for 20 minutes. Then from that point to go up to 1475 and hold that for 30 minutes. Then I'll take the blades out and quench them in the pot of oil. The oil will be heated up to around 130 degrees, 135 degrees, somewhere in that range. It doesn't have to be exactly precise as long as it's close to that. Then after that's done, the blades will be hard. They'll be too hard, they'll actually be brittle. If you were to use them or pound on them at all, they're going to shatter. So the next step after hardening them will be to let the knife oven cool down all the way and then put them back in for 2 tempering cycles for 2 hours each. And that'll pull the hardness back to where I want it for the knife. Okay, we've reached our temperature. And you can see here, 1196. It's got 16 minutes left to go of the 20-minute soak at 1200. So this thing will hold a precise temperature within, 3 or 4 degrees. It'll hold 1200 or 1475 just within a couple of degrees, so I can get an exact and repeatable heat treat. And that's the key when you're doing this stuff. I mean, you can do this stuff the old-fashioned way, and that's all well and good, but if you can take a steel like 01 and give it a very precise heat treat, give it the exact heat treat that it needs, you get a better blade when you're done. And the oil is up to temperature. It's close to 140 degrees. It's between 135 and 140 degrees, and I shut the burner off, and that'll be just perfect by the time the knives are finished in the kiln. You can hear it's beeping now. We reached temperature. Now we just have to wait. I have 30 minutes programmed in as a hold. And how long you hold it, let me shut this buzzer off. And how long you soak it at that particular temperature for depends on the thickness of the piece of steel that you're heat treating. Now, I'll probably, after 20 minutes, I'm going to pull the smaller knife out. That's 1/8 inch 01 tool steel. Then, after that one, after I quench that one, I'll go back and pull the larger blade out, which is 5/32. The 20 minutes hold is actually sufficient for both of them, but that's the order that I want to do this in. Okay, I'm going to try and capture this, and I'm going to do my best not to obstruct the view. The kiln is ready. The knives are ready. They've been soaking for 20 minutes so far, so I'm going to start with the small one. I have the pot of oil here. Right now it's about 135 degrees. That's perfect. I've got these extra long vice grips, and this is what I use to pull the knives out of the knife oven. You have to be careful not to wave them sideways and plunge them straight down in oil, and you can go forward and backward, but you can't go sideways to agitate. If you go sideways, you'll bend the blade. You have to go forward and backward, to do some agitation. So let's start with the first one. Okay, we should be about ready to do the other one. Let me see if I can get the camera aimed right. Okay, there you can see the kiln and the pot of oil. Straight down in and agitate back and forth. No sideways motion at all, because you will put a warp in that blade. Okay, looks like we got a nice straight blade. All right, let's take a look at the knife. Here's what it looks like out of the heat treat. Now let's test and see how hard this is. I have a file here. Can you hear it just skating over the edge? That file is not biting into the steel. That's how I know this has reached full hardness, because these files are very hard. 01, it's going to get probably 65, 66 on the Rockwell scale. Probably closer to 66 when it's fully hardened. And then we'll have to temper it and back it off. I gotta put that down, that's getting hot. Same thing with the smaller knife. See all that slag? That file skating across, it's not cutting in. So the steel is guaranteed to be harder than this file by quite a bit, because it's not even close to trying to bite into there. That's a good test for us small guys in a little do-it-yourself shop where this is just a hobby. And that's one way that you can tell that you do have good hard steel. Now, another thing that I have a set of hardness files. They're files that are hardened at all different levels, and the highest one is at 65. If they don't scratch it, you know your steel is harder than that. These knives will cool down. They're going to sit there on that block of wood on the cement floor until my kiln cools down. Right now it's at 1198 degrees, so it's still pretty hot. I shut the power off. It takes a while to cool down. You have all thick fire brick in here, and you want it to cool down slowly. You don't want your knife oven or any kiln, because that's really what it is, it's a kiln. You don't want any knife oven or kiln to cool down rapidly, because with temperature and heating and cooling comes expansion and contraction of materials. That's a good way to shorten the life of your kiln. You want gradual cooling. So I'm going to leave this thing here. It's probably going to take 4 or 5 hours for it to cool down so that I can run my tempering cycle. The kiln has cooled off. So now we're going to take our knives and put them back in and run a tempering cycle. So I'm going to start. I have programs stored in here. I'm going to recall one of them. So I'm going to put it in recall mode. Recall program number 1 and hit enter, and then it'll give me a summary. When I hit view, it'll give me a summary of what it's doing. So one segment, ramp it up to temperature at full speed and 350 degrees for 2 hours. So we're going to run that. Okay, as you can hear, we were beeping. That means we were done. This thing had finished a 2-hour cycle and just went into standby. That was last night. I didn't have time to come back and check it. So this is the following morning. It's about 7:30, 7:40 in the morning, and I'm going to start it up for its second tempering cycle. You can see the current temperature here is 52 degrees. Let's take a peek inside. You now have a different color on the blade. The blade is actually taking on a straw type color, and that's the exact color that we're looking for. Of course, you see the the black residue still on there, but you can see the straw color in the bare pieces of the steel. These will clean up nice on the belt sander after they're all finished. Put this back in the kiln. Here's the small one. You can see where in between the black, where you can see the raw steel, you can see that same straw color. That same color will be underneath the black too. Maybe you can see a little more on this side. I don't know if you can see inside the kiln. All right, let's close it up and run the program again. So let's review program 1, segments 1, go up to heat at full speed, 350 degrees for 2 hours. Well, it's lunchtime, so I had a little while I could come check on it. As you can hear, it's beeping. Let me shut that off. So it's done. It's cooled down to 124 degrees. So we're ready to take the knives out of the oven. Okay, they're not too hot. I can hold on to them. So here's a close-up of the two knives. I'm going to try and get these cleaned up tomorrow and finish them off on the belt sander. Clean off all the discoloration on them and touch up the grinds, bring them to a finished edge. Now let's see a difference on this file. Now, tell you what, this file still does not want to cut into that. These things are quite hard. I used to temper my 01 at 400 degrees, and that makes a really, really good knife. It holds an edge for quite a while, and I started doing an experimental temper about a year ago. I did a couple of them at 350 degrees, and that's what I did this at. So these, by my best estimates, are going to be somewheres in the mid 62s, possibly even up to 63 on the hardness. So these should be about top of the line for 01. These will be about the pinnacle of what you're going to get edge performance wise in 01. Your slight disadvantage is, yes, the knife would be tougher if you backed it off and you ran at 58, 59 like most companies do, but they do that because they're afraid you're going to break their knife. They sell their knives to people that are going to baton constantly, and they run them softer so that they do increase the toughness, but they really sacrifice the edge holding. 01 is quite a bit better than 1095 because it retains a good measure of toughness when run over 60. 1095, when it's run over 60, will lose that toughness. And run at this hardness, because I've tried it, I've heat treated it myself and tested it at different hardnesses, and it will chip if you do batoning. The pieces of the blade will chip out on you. That is about guaranteed. 1095 cannot be run as hard as 01 and still maintain enough toughness to make a good wood knife. 01 is far superior. I'm going to say I don't see a big difference in the edge holding. 01 will be a little bit superior, but I don't see a big difference in the edge holding between 1095 and 01 when you run them at the same hardness. So if you're going to take your 01 and run it at 58 or 59, I think you're wasting your money. I think you're better off just sticking with 1095, and even better than that, go with 80 CRV2. Its edge holding is about the same as 1095, and it can be heat treated a little bit harder, and it's a lot tougher. 80 CRV2 is practically the same thing as CPM 3V as far as toughness goes. So if you're going to make a heavy duty outdoors knife, 80 CRV2 is a great way to go if you want to work with a carbon steel. I've done some 3V before, and that turns out really good. But 01 is hard to beat. Of course, 01 is if you're looking for a carbon steel that's going to patina, it's hard to beat 01. The only thing that's going to really beat 01 as far as that, and it's going to beat it by a pretty good margin,
is K390. I absolutely love K390, and there will be some, well, also I'm going to say Crewware. Those two steels will make excellent fixed blade. Crewware is a very high toughness steel also, and I think Crewware is going to be the best steel for a hard use woods blade. K390 is going to be the best steel for a good slicer. So choose what you want to do and pick the steel according to that use. If you want a good all-around steel in the fixed blade that can do anything, it's hard to go wrong with Crewware. Or if you want to stick with the more simple carbon steels, 01. It's still a great option as long as you heat treat it pretty hard. Now I forgot to show the small knife. Let's do the file test on the small knife. Not even cutting, it won't bite.